The truth is, I don't believe that you're born a salesperson or not. I do believe that certain personality types are more attracted to the idea of sales and entrepreneurship,
Mm.
especially because there's a certain element of risk.
Financial independence,
freedom.
Financial picture.
Independent financially.
Financial future.
Financial freedom and wealth.
Financial independence.
Get your fill, financial independence and long life. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Get Your Fill, Financial Independence and Long Life, where we explore ways to achieve those two goals. And nice, cool, interesting people come on to help us. Justin Janowski has helped hundreds of coaches to build their dream businesses from the ground up. Driven by his faith, he's founded Faith to Influence to help people learn what it takes to turn coaching into a profitable business venture. Justin has guided Christians and non-Christian coaches alike through the rewarding process of optimizing business models, pricing, and sales strategies so they can scale their income alongside their impact. And the part that I want to make sure that you read, that you understand, is that he has a passion for sharing this process with emerging entrepreneurs like us to help them simplify and grow their businesses the right way. And he is right now freezing his cookies off in Milwaukee with his beautiful wife, Kara, and their playful kiddos, Grace and Gavin. Welcome, Justin.
Thanks for having me on. This is
Thank
fun.
you. Now that I'm not reading your name anymore, I should be able to keep calling you Justin.
Yes.
Funny. So why don't you tell us how you sort of got started with this? Have you always been like, yep, I want to teach coaches how to do their thing, or did this evolve from another part of your life?
This definitely evolved. I've been in sales since I was 18. When I was in my summer between high school and college, I responded to an ad in the newspaper and I ended up selling Cutco kitchen knives, direct sales, in-home presentations. A goofy job for a lot of people, but for me, I loved it. I was there for a few years and learned a lot. I ran my own district office. I had 700 customers. I learned about sales and entrepreneurship and realized that's what I wanted to do. But it took me a while to get into the coaching space. I was in sales for about 10 years before I became a coach. And I had other coaches as a direct salesperson who helped me in my personal development and my professional development. And I loved the work that they were doing. And when I decided I wanted to be a coach, my coach said, why don't you come work for us? We need a salesperson and a coach on our team. And so I did that for a few years and then ultimately started Faith to Influence when I was ready to launch my own business. And I remember being really nervous, Christine, because I had been used to, for those few years, being kind of a supporting role on the team versus being the star, the leader of the primary entrepreneur. And I was nervous. I wasn't sure whether or not it was going to work for me. And my initial goal was $60,000, and God provided beyond what I could have imagined. I collected over 250 grand that first year, and it just kind of boomed. And I was working with Christian male entrepreneurs. It was like a men's group. And then when I had a lot of success, and some of those men they were emerging entrepreneurs, they wanted to be coaches. When I worked with two or three of them, I said, that's really fun for me, helping other people launch their businesses. And so then I switched to working with men and women, but focusing on coaches and entrepreneurs primarily probably 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's fun. Congratulations. It's great when you can just follow the path to something that really lights you up.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like it's been guided and prepared over a long period of time to be where I'm at now.
It's funny. Sometimes I look at my life and I'm like, okay, so now I look back and see how everything I've done has basically brought me to this point.
Yes.
It's pretty cool. It's a
Yeah.
pretty cool thing that happens sometimes. So what do you think? See, I talk to people all the time, right? I interview a lot of people for the podcast, and it seems like some people are just made to be salespeople. Do you think that there's a secret sauce? Is there something that makes a good salesperson, or something that makes someone succeed in that business?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's a good point because so many people do believe that they're either born a salesperson or not. And you hear people say, well, I'm just not a salesperson. The truth is, I don't believe that you're born a salesperson or not. I do believe that certain personality types are more attracted to the idea of sales and entrepreneurship, especially because there's a certain element of risk in any kind of sales job. When you're earning commissions or any kind of entrepreneurial venture, you have to be able to sustain and receive and be open to a certain amount of risk and volatility. And many people just can't feel comfortable with that or don't have the confidence to take on that level of risk. And so that makes them a really great employee. They're somebody who can work with inside of a job that's like guaranteed. They've got a salary. They know what their earnings are going to be. They can budget around that. They can plan around that. There's a lot of safety and security in that. It's totally fine for somebody to be an employee. Most people in the world are and should be in that kind of role. But if somebody feels called to be an entrepreneur or they want to start a side hustle, they're going to have to do sales. It's like the one thing you must do is find a way to make sales if you're going to be any kind of entrepreneur. And I absolutely believe that anybody who's ready to receive like the experience of being an entrepreneur can be a successful salesperson. What they probably need to be good at is building relationships, which can be learned. They probably need to be good at asking great questions, which can be learned. And they're going to have enough courage to actually make their offer and invite people to buy. And that can be learned. For some people, it's going to feel easier. For others, it's going to feel scarier up front. But repetition is the key to mastery. And every person who wants to be an entrepreneur can learn to be a great salesperson and do it in a loving, high integrity way that honors their personality and their values if they do it right.
Yeah, and that's a great point because I think sometimes that's where people fall down. They think that in order to sell something, they have to say something that isn't necessarily true, or they have to be high pressure or whatever. But if I mean, if I had a treatment for some kind of a disease and the person had that disease, I would be very enthusiastic about sharing with them, like, I can help this, I have the cure to this disease. And it's sort of like that. I think of myself, I'm a real estate agent. That's my main thing. And I think of myself as a problem solver, right? Or even a matchmaker is probably a better thing, right? You learn all you can about the person and what they want, and then you learn about the property and what it's all about, and you see, is there a match here? Can we put you two together? It's not a question of forcing a person into something that isn't a good fit for them.
Right. Yeah. And it's all about the stories that you're telling yourself about what sales is
Right.
and who you are in that role. And for me, I just believe that sales is making it as easy as possible for the right people to say yes. Again, not forcing the right people, not trying to get a sale with the wrong person, no
Right.
manipulation. It's not about me. It's about finding the greatest win-win. But if I'm doing a great job, it makes it easy for the right person to say yes and ultimately either get something that they want or become more of who they are meant to become. Like whatever we're selling, like if we're with the right person who it's a fit for, it's going to feel really good for them to buy. People don't really like to be sold, but they love to buy stuff. One
Right.
of my clients, Laura Nizer, who I've worked with for years, when I first met her, her story about sales was that sales is really pushy. And she's like, I can't do it. I'm just not a salesperson. I'm not pushy. And I said, okay, well, if I put you on a sales call, Laura, would you then be pushy? And she said, no, I can't do it. That's why I'm not good at sales. I said, okay, let's say we did put you on a sales call and you're not going to be pushy. How would you show up? And she said, well, I'd show up service oriented. I'd want to serve and be generous. And I said, okay, great. Then is sales with you pushy? And she said, I guess not. I said, what's sales with you, Laura? She said, sales with me is service. And once she like that clicked for her and she made that change, she made two $7,500 sales the next week, which was more than she sold in her business the entire last year. She just needed to like shift the story that like sales with me, whatever you think sales has been, it's portrayed certain ways in movies and books and TV, and it has been bad. Like there have been a lot of manipulative salespeople in the past who've prioritized their commission over the prospect or the person that they're with.
Right.
But whatever it's been for other people, it doesn't have to be what it is for us. We need to tell ourselves the story of what sales with us is going to feel like. For me, it's going to be generous. It's going to be fun. It's going to feel good whether people buy or not. And if we have an empowering story around sales, we can remove our own resistance, which is usually the main problem that's holding people back.
It just does all come down to mindset, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it does. So often does.
It's true. And I see that for people all the time, people who have something really valuable to sell, something that would help people, and they
Mhm.
just feel uncomfortable asking someone to buy it. I'm like, do you feel like the person is going to be better for having met you, for having had the conversation, right? I mean, even if you don't sell them something, you could share some information and that's like social media, right? You're going to share information, and that way people can self-select. By the time they come to you, they were already sold.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Interesting. So that's cool. So are the people who you work with primarily are coaches who are helping other people to run their business or to help people with sales?
Well, all kinds of different coaches. So
Yeah.
I work with health and fitness coaches. I work with marriage coaches. I work with marketing coaches. We work with some entrepreneurs who aren't coaches, but they're kind of service-based
Yeah.
entrepreneurs. Ultimately, what we're going to do is work with people who are going to develop relationships in the way that they're selling. Usually, they're going to provide a great service or value, information in many cases, more than like a tangible product. Although I've sold tangible products a lot in my career. But right now, yeah, it's primarily service-based individuals who are wanting to make sales feel easier and lighter and need to work on that. But my most common target audience is a Christian who happens to be a coach. That the faith piece might not be involved in their business, but that's my target audience because it's fun for me to be able to pray with my clients. I've worked with some non-Christians as well and had a great time and had a great experience with that. But in my group programs, we have prayer calls every week and things like that. And so that's the group that's really most fun for me to work with.
Excellent. And how long do you think it took you to narrow that down to like understand, like, these are my people, this is what makes me happy? Was it all intuitive or did it sort of take some evolution?
It took some evolution for sure. And I think this is an important process for everyone because it might sound like, oh, wow, am I excluding a lot of people? There's a ton of people in my niche, and there's not a lot of people like me focusing specifically on that niche. So in that niche, I can be known and be famous in that small group of people. That's actually a pretty large pool to fish in. And for all of us, if we try to appeal to everyone or speak to everyone in what we're trying to do, we're probably going to be heard or received like deeply by no one. If we can narrow our niche and focus in on a very specific group of people and speak to them and their problems and give their examples and talk about the solutions and the day to day of that specific group of people, it makes it a lot easier for them to be like, oh my gosh, this was made for me and want to work with us. And we can become known or become famous in our small niche, our market. But for me, it was a period of like, I worked with another coaching company first. It was not Christian or faith based. It was working initially with like salespeople who were men. It was a men's group first, then it grew into men and women, and it was kind of entrepreneurial sales type people. And ultimately, like that was a great experience for me. But I learned, man, I felt like I was missing the spirit of God, and I wanted to be able to pray. I wanted to talk about God, and so I thought maybe I should do this, my version of this, like in a Christian way. That felt more aligned with my values. And so I started Faith to Influence as a Christian men's group for Christian entrepreneurs. And I worked with that group for a couple of years. And as I asked them questions, got to know them, and I ended up working with a couple of coaches, I thought, wow, it's really fun for me to help other coaches launch their dream and their business and like the emerging entrepreneur that you've talked about when we were, just getting started today. That's a fun audience to serve. And so then I was like, okay, that's who I want to work with. And I want to work with men and women. And like, it's just kind of slowly evolved. And I think that we all need to choose a starting place and say, okay, here's my initial target audience. And it's important for us to focus somewhere, but it's also okay to know that that doesn't have to be the decision of who we're going to work with forever. We can pivot later as we get information and learn and grow.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. This idea of niching, it's very difficult when you're an entrepreneur. You just feel like, but I can help everybody. And I'm a lot of times on networking calls and people will be like, well, who's your avatar, right? Who are you targeting? Oh, I can help everybody. I sell printing supplies. I can sell to anybody. Well, sure you can, but I'm just not going to tell every person I meet to go talk to you, right? If you say to me, oh, I help and I'm using an example from a guy who's in one of my networking groups. He'll say, I help a lot of nonprofits to do their mailing. So when they have their giving, I forget what they call it, but their campaigns for giving, like this is the time of year we're going to ask for donations and stuff like that. So now when you meet a nonprofit, which might not be every day, but you're going to run into some and they're talking about something, you say, oh, you know what, do you have somebody that prints your campaign, literature to send to your clients? No, oh, well, right. So I'm a real estate agent. I mean, everybody I know knows, could fill an egg carton with real estate agents, right? There are a million of us. But if I say, I help women between 40 and 60 to achieve financial independence through real estate investing, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, the next time I meet somebody who's 40 to 60 who's talking about real estate, I'm going to send them to Chris because that's her niche. It's counterintuitive maybe to people who are thinking like, but why would I want to exclude people who are 39? Well, no, sorry, they're gonna have to wait a year to work with me. That's no, you know what I mean? Like that, I'm not excluding people. I'm helping people to refer me. I'm helping people to understand when it's a good time to pop for me to pop into their head. If I just say, "Oh, Justin helps everybody," well, what am I going to just tell everybody I know about you? Of course not, right? So this allows your mind to make a connection between
Yes,
the
yes.
person you're talking to and the person you could potentially refer to them.
Makes you so much more referable, so much easier to be found,
Yeah,
so much easier for somebody to resonate and say, oh my gosh, this is the expert. This is the person I need to be working with. And I think, for me and for like a lot of like the kinds of coaches and entrepreneurs I'm working with are running ads on social media, or they're leading a podcast like you're doing here. And like if the ad or the podcast isn't speaking to a specific person, it's not going to be found when somebody's Googling searching for a podcast, or it's not going to stop the scroll because it's just going to feel too general. And so, yeah, that specificity really matters. Now, I still have David Bayer, who runs a $5 million annual business as a non-Christian, hires my company to come do sales at his event because I'm known for sales, and I got referred anyways because he had a sales problem. I'm
right.
happy to work with that person. And I work with a financial advisor, a family friend's a financial advisor, and said, hey, I know I'm not a coach, but I need help with my sales process. Can you help me? And I took him on as a one-on-one client. So to your point, you can absolutely work with people outside of your target niche. But if I'm not speaking specifically to people in my ads and through my podcast and the other things that I'm doing,
Yeah,
it's gonna be hard for people to find me. It's gonna be hard for people to refer me. So you're absolutely right. We can work with anyone, but let's focus on a targeted group of people that we're going to try to speak to in our marketing efforts.
absolutely. That's really smart. So that one of the many things that you probably teach your clients.
Yes.
What are some of the things that consistently come up, some of the challenges that people have that you see over and over again?
Yeah, there's a few things that I see from like emerging entrepreneurs. One of them is what we were just talking about. I actually call it your mission statement. And I know people have different meanings for that. And so for me, it's who do you work with? What problem do you solve? And why does it matter? And really getting the language right there so that, again, you're speaking to a specific group of people and solving what I would call pervasive problems, something that they know they want to work on, they know they want to solve, they're willing to spend money on. And so like a lot of people get stuck because they never get that right. And that to me is the foundation of everything.
Yeah.
And people might not remember every word of that mission statement, but there's little pieces that are going to be kind of stuck and they're going to be remembered. For me, I'm remembered maybe for Christian coaches and for sales. And because I'm really known for sales, that's how I can get referred when a sales problem comes up. That's how somebody outside my target audience can even try to come to me or find me. But I
Right.
want to make sure that that mission statement is exactly what's reflected on my website. It's exactly what's reflected in my programs and my offerings, in my marketing, in my podcast. My podcast is sales strategies for Christian coaches. It speaks directly to my audience and the problem. I had an amazing experience recently. In December, Drew Shaw, who was one of three founders, excuse me, not founders. Somebody else founded a company. I don't want to tell too much Drew's story, but they grew it to $5 million. And then Drew and two others took over the company and grew it from 5 million to over 100 million. Incredibly successful business person is now deciding that he wants to start a coaching business. And he's a man of faith, and he's far more successful in life than me. I mean, this is a guy that like I want to listen to. I want to sit at his feet and ask questions, right? But he found my podcast and then reached out to me directly and hired me to do some private coaching for him and his business. And it happened because what he was typing in was Christian coach and sales. He's trying to figure that strategy out because it's a new business for him. And I popped up because of that target niche, right? And all of the things I do, I want to be a broken record in speaking to who I'm helping and what problem I'm solving again and again and again to become known.
Yeah.
And I know that we just went over it, and now I'm like ad nauseum. I'm just like hammering this, but it's so important. That's the foundation of everything. And then the second thing, I'll say there's really three big things. Second thing is designing their offers. And so there are some traditional businesses that feel like really clear. And you can be an entrepreneur kind of as a financial advisor, but your company is setting the price points and like you don't have to worry about that. But for coaches that I work with, they're deciding how much are they going to charge for their services? What are they going to offer? And the design of the offer can feel big and scary, but the price point can feel even more scary, especially if it's arbitrary and there isn't a setting for it from somebody else that's already put it in place. And so I'm helping people figure out what's right there. And then the third part, and this is most common, is that people just struggle with sales. They usually avoid sales at all costs. They really want to have a successful business and they're taking action and they're busy and they're working and doing things and they're not making any money or getting any results because they're avoiding the only thing that can actually help them be successful and remain in business, which is making sales.
Yeah.
And usually, again, it's a mindset thing. So I need to help people overcome that and then learn a strategy that feels honest and high integrity and good and that they can employ to actually get great results making sales.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So 3 things that we can do is to sort of get that avatar, right? Figure out who is it that I like to talk to, that I like to sell to, who can hear the message that I have. It's funny, one of the first people I interviewed, well, I think I was a year into my podcast and I interviewed someone in her business and she just got I guess in the beginning just got a job and then opened her own salon to do permanent makeup. So like people who have, like tattoo lips put on and tattoo eyebrows and things like that. And that was her business. And she just did posts about it all day long. That was, to help other people who were in that exact industry to learn what she was doing. I mean, at the time, I didn't even know what permanent makeup was. And I'm thinking, you're making a business out of this. And when that market came to really know her, it's exactly your story. When that market came to know her really well, then other people started to notice her and other people. And so now she's creating courses to help people, to market their own business on social media. And, here's how to master Instagram, whatever. Because now she's established a reputation for herself within this niche. And now it's bubbling over into other places. And that's exactly what's happening to you.
Yeah. And she's solving a specific problem. So that's the other part of it. It's like the who, but then sometimes people, what coaches that I'm working with, what they're going to do is like, it's a little too fluffy. It's a little bit abstract.
Yeah.
And people, it sounds nice. It's beautiful language oftentimes, like what they're going to do for these people, but it's not easily understood. And so we want to make sure that we're speaking in common language that people are like, oh, you're going to help me do that. I need that. Like when you're talking about, you're going to help people find financial freedom and do it through real estate investing, you're solving a core problem that your audience feels and experiences. Like they know when they hear that word financial freedom or that phrase, like, oh, I don't have that and I want that. And there's that like pervasiveness of the problem. And so it's cool. Like if you're great, you want to work with women between 40 and 60, but if you're like, hey, I'm a life coach for women to 40 to 60, that's also challenging because who are you people are going to refer you to?
Right.
But if you're solving a specific problem, and for this person who is doing the permanent makeup, they're speaking to a very specific problem, like how to run your Instagram page so that you
Yeah.
can get the following. Like, and the people in that industry are probably thinking, okay, yeah, I need to show people this idea. I need to expose my audience to it again and again. I don't know how to market to create clients. So she's solving a problem that those people need to solve and are willing to pay to solve. So that's the second part of it. And then, yes, we need the offer and the price point figured out. And then we need to have the courage and confidence to sell and do it in a way that feels good.
The price point is tough. I know a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially service-based, because there isn't necessarily, it's hard to compare apples and apples if you're looking at your competition. The
Yeah.
prices are all over the map, right? You can
Yeah.
pay $20 an hour, you can pay, $250 a month, or you can pay, you know, 2,500 for, a 15-minute session. So it's hard to sort of compare yourself with other people. And I would think when you're just getting started, that confidence to say, yes, yes, it's cost you, it's going to cost you 250 to talk to me.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to offer me in that 20 minutes of at 250, right? So how do you help people to embrace and feel comfortable and confident asking for that that money, especially when they love doing what they do. Like I would talk to anybody, I would help somebody with real estate investing for nothing, right? I love it. I love talking about it. I love doing it. How am I going to tell somebody, well, I'm going to charge you money to do this with me?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I typically walk people through a process of like, first of all, like not paying as much attention to the minutes and the dollars and cents for the minutes, but that is what people do. They're like, oh, my rate is X number of dollars an hour, or for 30 minutes. And like when we get wrapped up in that, it becomes difficult for the provider and for the client. So what I want people to think about is like, what is the outcome we're going to try to deliver for somebody? How long do they need to achieve that outcome? Is it like a 3 month, 6 months, 12 months? Like what's common? And then the question becomes, okay, what can we provide to them to deliver that outcome? Now, most great coaches in my space or service providers, they're not offering just one thing. Some do, but most often there's like kind of an offer stack and a value stack. And this can
Value
actually
ladder.
make it easier, yes, for us to move away from like the dollars and cents of like the minutes and hours, is to start saying, okay, do we want to provide one-on-one coaching? Do we want to provide group coaching calls? Do we want to have a live event? One of my offers, I have people come to Milwaukee. I fly them. I take care of their flight. I take care of their lodging, their meals, and we spend a full day, like 9 to 5 together, like working on their entire business plan. And it's not as much about the hours of the day as it is, we're going to help you with your business design, your mission statement, your offers and pricing. You're going to learn your sales strategy. You're going to get clear on your marketing strategy. It's outcome focused more than minutes focused. But there's like this piece, right? And then like in group programs, like we've got a group program where we have a weekly prayer and networking call, where we've got a library of pre-recorded trainings that they can access. We have a program where we do live Q&A every week. So it's like trying to think through, what are the different things that we can provide that can help somebody? How can we deliver on outcomes rather than just focus on minutes? And if we can put together an offer of like what we'd like to provide and how often we'd like to provide it to people, inside of a time frame of 3 months or 6 months or 12 months in many cases, for people to achieve a certain goal or outcome, people will pay to achieve the outcome more than they're going to pay for the time. For me, like if you could help me achieve a goal or solve a problem I'm facing in my business, I don't care how long it takes. If it's short, I'm even happier. I'll pay for the outcome though. And one of the things that we do with our clients is I've worked with so many coaches. I love working with new coaches. It's my favorite thing, the emerging entrepreneur, but I do get hired by 7 and 8 figure coaches to do sales directly for them at their conferences. We work with some of the top coaches in the marketplace. We've done millions of dollars in sales in like 2 or 3 days at huge conferences where we've brought teams of like 10 or 15 people. And I've seen a ton of offers. And so I do try to say, okay, for the average coach in the marketplace, if you're offering a one-on-one coaching call, they typically range from this price to this price. And yes, there are people way up here, and yes, there are people selling way down here who aren't really succeeding. But here's the common range of price points for a new to intermediate coach. Where in that range do you feel like your coaching call is worth right now for your audience? And give people a starting place. And group calls are typically valued at this price to this price, and giving them a range and helping them select a number inside of that range for the different parts of their offer stack. And then coming to a place of saying, okay, my offer's worth this much. And then considering from there, what do we want to sell it for? So it's not just this completely arbitrary number. Like we've actually thought through, what do we think this is really worth? And then what price point do we want to sell it at? They're not just buying one coaching call. If they're buying a 6-month program that has 4 things included, they're buying in bulk. They're going to Costco. So maybe we give them 10 or 20 or 30% off of that price point, and we figure out the payment options. And if we do all of this and we take all the proper steps, people aren't getting on a coaching call with me thinking, oh my gosh, this is costing me X number of dollars. It's part of a program that's going to deliver a certain outcome thereafter for a price that is attached to the outcome, more than anything else. And so that's a long answer, and it's probably also helpful in not providing everything that somebody needs. But if people want help with this, I'd love to help, and they can definitely reach out to me directly. I can be found on social media, and I'm easy to get in touch with.
Perfect. So that's a very nice segue, Justin. I appreciate that because we're sort of pumping up on our like target time. So what is a good way for people to reach you if they're like, yes, I struggle with sales. Yes, I want to go to the next level. I like Justin's style. I like his attitude. I like his philosophy. I think he might be my guy.
Yeah.
What's the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah, if you're like, I think he might be my guy. I occasionally have somebody listen to me on a podcast and they'll just email me or send me like a Facebook message directly. That's always really fun. Justin Janowski, I can be easily found, or Justin at faith2influence.com. That's faith, the number 2, and influence. You can email me. But if you're like, I don't know, I want to take that big of a step, we've got a free resource that anyone who listens to your show can have, where we're going to share our 10-step sales process and what we call the art of influence, which is the mindset around sales and money, and some tools that can empower people to make becoming an emerging successful entrepreneur a lot easier. I want to give that PDF for free to people here, and they can get it at goodsalespdf.com.
Thanks, Justin. That's really generous.
My pleasure.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to address, or anything you wish I would have asked you, or anything you want to make sure people take away from today?
What I would say is important is to do it scared and to be imperfect and to just be authentic. If someone's here thinking, I want to start a business, I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to be a coach, I want to be a speaker, I want to be an author, if we wait until it feels like we've got all the answers, we're never going to do it. If we wait until it feels like we're perfect or the plan is just right, we're never going to take any action. And I just want people to know that every entrepreneur, every salesperson, every author, every speaker feels nervous and scared when they start. We have to do it scared. Find a great mentor, find community and people who encourage you and support you and love on you and help you feel confident. Prepare until you're prepared enough that you can take the first step, but just know that you're going to have to leap when it feels scary. And my first few months of my business, I was tossing and turning at night, having a hard time sleeping. I was just hoping I could make it. And that's normal. That's part of the process. And it's okay to just take the first step and do it scared. And it's actually necessary.
That's excellent advice, Justin. I love it. Don't fall into analysis paralysis. Just take the leap.
Yes. Amen.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you so much for being with us today. It's been fun talking to you.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Me too. And thank you, listener, for listening. Now, take a minute and think of a couple people who you know who can really, people who might be entrepreneurs, people who might be aspiring or emerging entrepreneurs, wantrepreneurs, I like to call them, and forward this episode to them because they will really thank you. Justin and I will really thank you. And so you're going to be the star of the day. And make sure you come join us next week to see what we have on offer. Have a great week.